Just do it. Ah, yes. And we have just done it, as wife has informed me to do. Hello, everybody. We are on. I need to, be less of an old man about this and figure out how to do that whole. We're trying to rewatch the stream of me just gabbing to myself. I shall now go share. Oh, of course, it erased it all. Lovely. But we shall share links accordingly. Wife will share links. Boop doop dee to remind me. Just, I have permission to share the link. Don't mind me. So yeah, we're gonna have a good time today after I do the most basics of basics. Latest stuff. Like I know I'm supposed to do thing like share stuff, but I'm an old man. I swear I can't. I don't do this stuff well, but I'll learn as I have to. Shut up. My wife mocks me from the couch. I know you guys can't hear that, but she's brutal. Sunday school lesson. All right. Now the link is shared. There. Wait, is there anyone on here before I just... Okay, good. There's no one on here yet. Woo! Why is the lighting so weird this time?
Wipe the camera in case it's bumpy or something.
Excuse our technical difficulties as we figure out why I am so ghostly white. Oh, there. If I lean back, it's perfection. Apparently, I'm supposed to be a regal fellow leaning back all calm to you as I regale you with the latest lesson that you clearly read. You moved the camera away. A lot. People a few minutes to pile in if they're going to pile. Okay, yeah. Just erase what I just did. Thank you. Oh, I'm sharing it on mine now. Sheesh. Man. Agents. Latest Sunday school lesson. Lesson 1. Ah! War may be the air we breathe, but technology hates it. All right. Boom. Just take it. Fall asleep, child. I hope you all can hear the thunderous joy of my children in the other room. Hopefully. Wife making Irish roots betray me. That. There we go. Camera's just being slow. Anyway, folks. And then we're doing a stream. Anyone wanting to ask questions and all that, we're going to get going on the lesson. Hope you all enjoyed it when you read it. Good, solid couple hundred views right off the bat, so I'm happy with that. We're going to read it over if this old man can figure out technology enough to put things on screen. I'll give it a few more minutes as we wait for anyone who wants to join in to join in. But this one, first lesson name is War is the Air We Breathe. Yes. And with this, I kind of want to hint, right? Because the idea is more than just like you put my video up or you just read it. The idea would be you guys take this and then bring it to any small groups or any groups of guys that you're meeting with or having stuff with your church, and you can share it further, teach the lesson yourself, add what you think your group of guys needs. That way you can personalize it a little bit. It's a lesson plan. It is kind of a detailed lesson, but you can expand. You can do your own thing. So with this, it is similar to the intro a little bit, but we're much more verse heavy and trying to establish the fact that the Bible is much more aggressive than what most people would agree to in the modern era. And I purposely picked a lot of New Testament verses for this because the first thing people tend to do when you bring up, because most of our lessons, at least until we get to the birth of Jesus Christ and around Christmas time, are going to be mostly Old Testament stories, and though we'll reference the New Testament, it's going to be a lot of Old Testament verses. So, being a longtime Christian, I have heard this a lot. A lot of times when people find something in the Old Testament that they don't like very much, the first thing they want to do is discredit it and try to say, "Oh, that's Old Testament stuff. That's like eating shellfish or cutting off the end of your dick." And it's going to be that kind of Sunday school. This is Sunday school for young men. Oh, hey, look, a cat. And I have a dog too. Don't worry, we're not just cat people around here. We are equal opportunity offenders. Yes, the dog harasses El Gato all the time. Yes, their struggles are epic to behold. But yeah, if you can't handle rough language, what are you even in a group of men for? Like this one thing you should also get used to with these lessons is I don't see any point in that. If there were kids around, that's one thing. Women around, I'd think about it. But guys cuss. This is the reality. All right. Yes, there are very ceremonial people up there who work really hard not to cuss. But let me tell you, if you are making any of the oh shit noises, you're basically cussing. I'm sorry, that's the concept behind it. Now, I'm not saying dirty language is necessarily a good thing. The point is,
Stop it right now. You go to
I
bed.
don't want you guys that we're not talk about the reality of the Lord's word. And it's also concentrating on the wrong thing. Well, I don't want to get caught up in a different lesson as I wait for people to come in. I mean, we could talk about, the whole cussing thing. I'm not going to get into that in these lessons. The point is on these streams, I'm going to be real. I've never experienced a group that doesn't have their own version of cuss words, even the very religious types. Pentecostal cussing. What always happens is you come up with a different set of words that everyone accepts and goes, "Oh, that word's okay." Ignoring the fact that all words at one point were not considered cuss words and were made up by some greasy guy at the dock.
Like the word ass.
Yeah. No.
The donkey.
That's nothing against you guys if you don't like cussing, but I'm saying put on your big boy pants. This is a group of men. All right. And if you're trying to reach men, and I'm more important than just reaching young men is that what I want to do is reach the guys. It's going to sound weird. Like, what? I thought you were, I am gearing towards young men, but I'm also kind of gearing this towards men who are seen as leaders by those young men, if that makes any sense. And what I mean by that is young men are often, how many times am I going to say that? Young men are often looking for, even if they're like an outside who is a leader, right? They're always kind of looking for that elder figure to ask advice from. It really is. It's there. It's strange. I am very confused now that I'm being seen as that figure by like 20-year-olds. Makes me feel very old and confused as they start treating me as the crazy stereotype, right? Who occasionally has some very fascinating to say, but most of the time they're going to ignore me because I'm crazy. I find it so fascinating. Anyway, for you crazy uncle guys out there, all right, I'm kind of getting this towards you. If you're too Flemish and you get on everybody's case about, most of the men you're trying to reach are going to tune you out right off the bat. So don't do it. Just accept the fact that men cuss. It is just the thing we do. Sorry, my child fell on her butt. Little stubborn girl not going to bed. Anyway, we'll see if it turns out to be a failing that God gets my attention for eventually. But till then. All right, we're 10 minutes in, and no one's shown up. I didn't accidentally put this on private, did I?
Did you take it off for it?
I did. Yeah, I did. I definitely put it on.
Yeah, because I got a notification.
You want to click on the link and make sure it's okay? Sorry, I was not saying I'm the most popular guy in the world. But
Okay, so there you go.
yeah, it's working?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Some people will show up when they feel like showing up. Oh, hey, that game's not lying today. Go ahead and get off. All right. So, since most people are going to be watching this and post, they must be having busy Mondays. We'll go ahead and get started. Sorry about that whole little soapbox. It's not so much as a soapbox as much as, I want you guys to concentrate on the important things. The language isn't as important as the concepts being shared. Yeah? Yeah? Cool. We can agree to disagree about the cussing if you're feeling like that. But remember, concentrate more on the concepts, the meat of the matter. Jesus Christ made it very clear multiple times in the Bible, the Sabbath was made for man, man was not made for the Sabbath. And I apply that in a lot of things. Basically, don't allow your rules to get in the, even if they're useful rules, don't allow them to get in the way of their original purpose, right? If you're trying to reach guys, and even if you think it's important for them to stop cussing altogether, you got to meet them where they're at. Now, let's get moving. You may think that's a little strange, like, oh, why can't you apply that? Yeah, you can slippery slope this to the point where you're like, well, I should tell the gay guy that it's not good for him to be gay, but I gotta meet him where he's at. There's a line. All right, don't cross it. Don't be stupid. Let's get going. That's work. So, into it. Did some preliminaries. Oh, you want? But anyway, let's bring up the thing before I get too distracted. Let's remember how to do this. Yes, we want this one. We want to hit. We want to hit the share.
And you go back or something.
And then we hit the Valve Studio.
There's
There we go. Hot dog. All right. So I don't know why that's highlighted, but we'll ignore that.
because you highlighted in the app.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Hang on. And of course, I still have technical difficulties. Okay, now I see the problem. Let's clear that off. Gosh. All right. Say hi to Mama Grizzly's a beautiful AI art here. She pulled it off. Stellar. Love it. Perfectly suits it. One day I may have money to do a proper artist. But till then, we're going to have fun with the AI.
That would make a good poster.
Yes, it would. All right. Maybe full screen makes sense. Yeah. All right. All right. So, war is the air we breathe. Christmas 1914, a staggering miracle was given to mankind. On the battlefields of Europe, Christian men laid down their arms and refused to kill one another for a day, embracing one another as brothers. Evidently, these men could live in peace, as outlined by Paul in Romans. If possible, so far as it is dependent on you, live peaceably with all. They would have been seriously drawn out the conflict in question. Not only leaders of Europe back then, as they are today in Western countries, cultists, but had multiple opportunities to end the war and refused, as seen in the secret failed peace talks of 1916. You can look that up on your own time, by the way. A fact that very well might have caused riots in the various countries if the knowledge had been widespread. No wonder the meetings were secret. This meant for the Christmas truce to stick, there was only one option. Those boys had to turn their rifles around, march on their capitals, kill every officer in their way, and purge their governments of every single political freak who had manipulated them into slaughtering their brothers in Christ. This was the only method for peace, a declaration of war against our true enemies. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over the present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Ephesians 6:12. Now, a lot of you may think it's kind of strange, right, that I am declaring, right, a peace thing, right? This is peace. You should be at peace with your brothers when I'm saying war is the air we breathe. The point is, you should be fighting your true enemy, not the enemy that your enemy wants you to fight. And this manipulation happens all the time. It's a chaotic, wild thing that the devil often brings against us. I also wanted to highlight with this that our enemy is in control of much of the leadership in the world. A lot of people say conspiracy, but what is it really? I mean, it is conspiracy in the literal definition of the word. But when I can type in the computer and bring up, oh shoot, I'm doing a blank. Mountain Grove. The Grove in California, wife with the real Bohemian Grove. You can look that up, and you look it up with Alex Jones. If I had been a little more prepared tonight, I'd have the video ready to go. It's a little hard to find now, and you can literally watch people worshiping a weird owl god thing with fire and at least simulating, we hope only simulating, human sacrifice. And know that all of the major presidents have all gone to this Bohemian Grove club thing. All of them. Since it's been established, obviously California hasn't always been in the union, as you get by the drift. But ever since Bohemian Grove has been established, every single president's gone there. You can't ignore these facts, and you can bring up, I mean, that's just one of a bajillion different connections. These people are cultic. They admit it all the time in weird, stupid, cryptic ways. And I'm not here to try to convince everybody of it, but understand when it says we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present age of darkness. Those powers of darkness have, just like God, right? They emulate God in so many ways. They try to copy him and corrupt what he does. If God has human imagers, human servants doing his will, and he calls them to it, why wouldn't the powers of darkness that are against God also do the same thing? Why wouldn't they bring up servants to do their will? There's plenty of humans willing to do ridiculous things and are easily gullible to do just that. And we'll get into it later in the lesson. So, though it may seem strange that I was saying World War I should have ended right there, right? The only way they could have won is if they had attacked their real enemy. That's the only way the war would have ended peacefully, because their true enemy would have never let them stop fighting unless they killed them first. The only way through peace is to really kill your enemy, dang it. Yeah, once they're all dead, man, ain't nothing they can do to stop you. But you understand my point. As long as you have a true enemy, as long as the principalities of darkness run the world, you cannot have true peace. This is why the war is the air we breathe. Even if we get a respite, even if we do attack their physical servants enough and break their power on earth, they will always raise up new enemies against us, because they are immortal little freak bags who will not go to hell until the end of days. So we're going to just kind of have to deal with them for a while. No, oh, sorry, wife, you were right here. Let's go on this side. You're just going to have to deal with them for a while. So that is why the war never ends, right? You get my drift? But you don't have to kill your brothers in the process. Let's continue reading. Oh, wait, I got to click on the other button to get this. This is so janky. I hope I can find a better method for doing this later. All right. Contrary to the popular belief, this verse, Ephesians 6:12, we read it, doesn't mean that our struggle is not against not the physical, but that our battle is with spiritual powers behind our physical enemies. And we've gotten to that, right? That does not mean we don't fight men. It means we fight men influenced by true evil in the spiritual realms in the heavenly places. The concept that war or battle with the true enemy is the only way to peace must sound counterintuitive or even stupid in layman's terms. We got into that too. But when you are at war, the enemy has a say on when that war ends. As long as evil exists in the world, we will struggle with them or we will be slaves to them. There is no middle ground. And this is very much the case. We see this on display. Distracted by dogs jumping on windows. We see this on display very much in America right now. Like, you can be 100% against abortion, but your tax dollars are still going to those abortion clinics, and there's nothing you can do about it. Your state can say we want nothing to do with it. Your tax dollars still go to abortion clinics in New York or whatever it is, via federal, right? You have no say in it. And why? Because we have actively stopped fighting the evil in our own ranks. It's just the truth. We've let we've not so much let the foxes in the hen house, but we've let the snakes rule the hen house and us. They've come into our bedrooms and we've allowed them to tell us how we shall eat, dress, talk, and what our kids will learn. Little wonder we're told the snakes are good. And that the sheepdog.
You should kill them.
Not those snakes.
Yeah, that's a Buddhist mentality.
And there you go. Yeah, and then my wife brings up an interesting point. A lot of Eastern stuff will actually have this concept that
About
snakes
killing
are
animals
specifically snakes are messengers of gods, messengers of the gods. Now, if you ever run into a snake or some entity taking on the form of a snake that is speaking to you, especially if you're a drug-addled nightmare, that is a demon. Do not listen to it. If that's not obvious enough.
Reach for your machete.
But we'll get into that in next week's lesson when we talk about Adam and Eve and, fun stuff. All right. Let's get into the next verse. Whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters. Matthew 12:30. Who said these words? Was this the voice of a tyrant from ages past? Maybe an evil space wizard from a dying movie franchise? Anakin! No, this is Jesus Christ, your Savior, speaking to you on the realities of his mission on earth. I have come to his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a person's enemies will be those of his own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son is not worthy of me. Matthew 10:34-37. This is again Jesus Christ talking. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, but he will only accomplish this by destroying those who oppose the kingdom of heaven. Oh, quick side note on the whole father and mother thing. When it comes to family, Jesus Christ's own family on earth, Mary and his mother and brothers, they came to him and declared him insane and tried to take custody of him while he was preaching. Like, this is ultimate insult right there. And if Christ's own family turned on him at one point, yes, Mary came around, and we know at least James, his half-brother, came around. But if his own family turned on him, I think you all know the verse where he says, they hated me, so of course they will hate you. There's a very good chance that they'll start turning on you. It's just the reality of it, especially when you're dealing with churchians who care more about if you're racist than if, you're a raping, murdering pedophile. Right? What do we hear, right? With the Olympics and all that, right? They do this horrible pedophilic gay right in front of their faces, and they're like, "I'm sick of people angry about this. These people need Jesus."
And then
too.
the next Sunday or 2 Sundays later, they have Olympic themed stuff on their stages.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But more importantly to the point, if you ever run into that type, I want you to ask them right afterwards. Okay, well, how do you feel about an extremely racist Georgian man who is actively using the N-word? And this is YouTube, so I'm going to censor myself just a little bit. Right? Right there, we know what they would do. They would kick that man out of their church so fast, so hard, and with absolutely no sympathy. See, apparently, right, all the gays, the fags, and the weirdos, and the pedophiles, those guys just need Jesus. But the racist, man, throw them in hell right now. They don't have any chance. They don't deserve a chance to be saved. And that's how you know they're full of shit. They've always been full of shit. They don't. It's not that they think everybody needs Jesus. That's what they say, because they don't want to condemn the people that they're programmed and, in some cases, paid or even a part of. You get right. You can always tell who a person is soft for, because that's the person they're going to want mercy for.
Especially if it's their own child.
Yeah,
That's
right.
been through
And
something.
you should have that. You should have a desire for more mercy for your own children. That's good.
But you should.
But
come up with
you
that.
should always question the people that have this weird soft spot for lesbians, pedophiles, and facts. You really should, because in our day and age, especially, that's a problem. Because I almost guarantee you, those people will have zero sympathy for the racist or the anti-abortion person. Or the guy whose wife called lesbians dykes in a joke in a small group and then kicked them out. That was our personal story. I might have cussed out that small group when I found out what they did to my wife when I was working at 3 a.m. delivering drugs. That sounds wrong. It was legal. Okay.
Old folks home, dope. Old
Dope
folks,
folks,
dope.
Don't laugh at your dad being a drug dealer for the government. That wasn't the government. We were contracted out. I don't know who exactly was doing it, but there were legal drugs in the right situation. I had papers to prove it. Anyway,
The special bags to prove.
and very special bags. Yes, no one ever touched those. No one would mess with the red narcotic bags.
I think the police took them because after we got the car back after the wreck.
Oh shoot!
We
We never
never
got the
police
drugs
got them,
back,
yeah.
did we? Crap. Well, those are expensive drugs
I
too.
know. We
I
had
mean,
just
you probably shouldn't have taken them. They were the drugs that
we
like
just
make
finished
old people shut
doing
up.
the orders and
Dude,
yeah, they know.
we had one last delivery, didn't we?
right before that wreck.
Or did we deliver them all
We
first?
finished it, but we still.
Oh, this
had
is
the,
a
we
side
had-
note.
We
They
had the
have
empty
no
bag.
idea what's going on.
We had the empty bags.
Wife, they have no idea what's going on.
The OGers would know.
Yes, the OG way back when we got in a car wreck.
When I was pregnant with.
Yeah.
Her.
My wife
That
was
was-
on a run with me as we were delivering drugs.
That
and
sounds
we got
even
wrecked.
worse. We're gonna run with me.
I don't care. It's hilarious. And it's even funnier that they were being
We
paid.
did
We were
get
being
kicked
paid.
out of small
by
group
legal-
for the drugs because they probably were using drugs at that group.
Anyway, I
too.
was angry with that group because at 3 a.m, I'm working my butt off, and they were supposed to be taking care of my wife and being
At
nice.
3 in the
and
morning?
my
Who goes to a small group at 3 in the morning?
you right. I was working till 3 a.m. I
Till
was
3,
informed of
okay.
this around 11 to
When
midnight.
I called you
'cause
afterwards,
we would-
yeah.
And actually, they did go pretty late a couple of times. Remember that? Yeah. They were weird. We'll get into that later time. Anyway, so we'll continue the lesson. I think I got a little too into
Just a
that
little,
tangent.
just a
But
little.
again, if you're teaching your own Sunday school group on this stuff, don't be afraid of tangents and let people ask questions. You do need to get through your stuff, but I'm not too prideful, guys. You don't have to read every single darn word. Just get the gist of it out to them. You know what I mean? Oh, look, it's a small child behind me. Just do
Just, yeah.
do what you can, get it done. But remember, man was made for the Sabbath. Man was not made for the Sabbath. Sabbath was made for man. This is made for you. You were not made for it. So use it how you will. Now, let's continue. Okay. Right. Kingdom of heaven. Unlike those soldiers on the front lines of a pointless war, God and his son Jesus Christ know who their true enemies are. And unlike the modern churchians, are not too weak or foolish to think peace with their enemies is possible or moral. Even when their own children and creations rebel, the Prince of Peace will obtain that peace through rivers of blood. Then I saw heaven open. Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes, I haven't said that. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems, and he has a name written that no one knows but himself. He is clothed in a robe dipped in blood, and the name by which he is called is the Word of God. And the armies of heaven, arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. From his mouth comes a sharp sword with which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. He will tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God the Almighty. On his robe and on his thigh he has a name written, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Then I saw the angel standing in the sun, and with a loud voice he called to all the birds that fly directly overhead, Come, gather for the great supper of God, to eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, the flesh of horses and their riders, the flesh of all men, both free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth with their armies gathered to make war against him who was sitting on the horse and against his army. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who is in its presence had done the signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. And the rest were slain by the sword that came from the mouth of him who was sitting on the horse, and all the birds were gorged with their flesh. Revelations 19:11-20. Boom. Let that be a lesson for you. To be Christ-like or Christian includes pulling a sword out of your mouth and slaughtering entire multitudes of the Lord's enemies on earth. Many will revolt against this concept, and they will be like those soldiers in World War I, the satanic war to end all wars. The enemies attempt to defeat God's elect Christian warriors on earth and all their kingdoms and works in Christendom. Those who seek peace with evil will die with them, or at worst join them. You are with Christ or against him. There is no middle ground. So which will it be, modern man? Will you tolerate evil and out of misguided kindness or cowardice make peace with the devil's minions and thus be enslaved? Or will you fight him at every turn and every shape that he takes, whether spiritually or physically? The Buddhist, one might claim, isn't against Christ, but Christ himself disagrees. They refuse his authority, so they are enslaved by evil and have actively rejected their Savior for centuries. Any true Christian who has dealt with the darkness within Buddhist temples will attest to this fact. Can they be saved? Of course. But that is between them and God, and as long as they are enslaved by evil, they are your enemies. Not all men are brothers, not all men can live in peace. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, Vengeance is mine, and I will repay, says the Lord. Romans 12:18-19. Whenever possible. Even in the great verse that Churchians by the way, if you're new to all this, Churchians is the term we use for all the modern fake Christians out there that are destroying churches and all that.
They named the churches like
East
North Star.
Yeah, so hence Churchians. It's a great name. Fox Day coined it. I've taken it. It's beautiful.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Nations, people. All right. We cannot live at peace with those who are peaceful with our enemies and the corruption they bring on our nation's people and children. Now, let's stop for a quick minute here. Obviously, I don't have time in these or the amount. Like, I'd have to write an entire book to get into each facet that I'm bringing up. Or you might be thinking, am I suggesting you go out and you kill every Buddhist you can find? No. And remember, right, it says, what does it say to do with your enemies? Love them and all that, right? But it doesn't say don't forget that they're your enemy. Yeah. And we have some more context in those verses as well that we'll get into in later times. The point we're trying to get at here is don't forget that they're an enemy. Okay? It's not, it's not like I hate them. I do hate the things they do. I also, and actually, I'll be fair with you. I do hate pedophiles.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm sorry. The things they do are absolutely atrocious. Now, if they get forgiven for it, if they really turn their lives around, I still will not like them. I'll be fair. It might be a failing of mine. God will have to keep them away from me. It's just a reality. He might have to deal with that with me. Yeah, he might have to sequester me in a different part of heaven. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
Give you a different duty.
And maybe after thousands and thousands of years, I will forgive them. But it's going to take a long time. Right? And, you should always ignore the people that say, hate the sin, not the sinner. Again, just bring up racist people to them. Act extremely racist in front of them. You don't even have to be really racist. Just act really racist in front of them and watch their continents. Is that the right word? How they're acting. Watch their personalities change around you. I almost guarantee you that they will suddenly act extremely nasty against you. My own mother did this to me. Right? My own mother did that to me. And let me tell you, it's harsh. And especially at a time and age where calling someone racist could literally mean their job or their life in intense situations. To call your own son one, that's no small matter. And so I bring all this up to establish what we're talking about. In civilizational wars, in stuff like you can't allow large groups of other religions to be in your midst. You cannot forget that they serve principalities of darkness, no matter how much you like their religion, no matter how you like little aspects of them. Okay, especially with the Buddhist stuff. If you actually go to Buddhist temples and you go to some, especially the ones that involve hell, they're hellish. It is some of the most demonic things you'll ever experience. The imagery,
the one with the weird.
Yeah,
the really intense one.
I don't need to get into that here. The demonic entities that are put out in all their statues and all this stuff. For a religion that doesn't have gods, they're sure obsessed with idols. It's more like just calling a god by a different name. And I don't see the point of respecting any of that. I find it really funny when people like to pretend that Native Americans aren't pagan. They're animists. They think, God is in everything. No, they believe that there's super powerful spirits that are basically gods that you can sacrifice things to and will often give you boons. The Blackfoot, for example, had this concept that if you sacrificed a close loved one or just someone important to you, that you're going to hear Skinwalker vibes here, and you bring them out to a certain location where the spirit is in the middle of the desolate place. Does that sound familiar? Like where Jesus Christ went, right? The desolate place to get tempted, right? We'll get into that too, about certain things in nature. And if you kill someone there and you commune with the spirit, it'll give you magical powers and the ability to come back zombie style.
That's why I don't like going to overseas.
Yeah, I have a distinct. It's funny to me how much I run into these people who like worship the native tribes, even though they're not native either. And then when you actually learn bits of their cultures, you actually I learned it from the perspective that I was researching cryptid encounters and stuff, and then from that you get all these weird stories and crap and the heroes in these stories, and you just kind of go, oh, you guys were just horrible pieces of crap. That's why no one wanted to live around you. Got it.
That's why you can never build anything.
I'm on board. Anyway, that's a side note. Hey, now you know
why.
Now they know why my mom called me a racist pig. This is great. Anyway, we'll get moving.
Tribal people too.
Anyway, my wife and I have gone through a lot of experience.
Personal experience.
Lots of personal experience. Not here anyway. So I gotta get into the weeds. Yes, as they say, and they're not wrong. Yeah, die in the corner. These people do need Jesus, and God can save them, but it is up to them. Natives, again, great example. How many hundreds of years have they been exposed to Christianity? And how many centuries have they utterly refused it, up to their own destruction? Now you can blame, the white man for them into all these things. Yeah, into these things where they literally had no fear of being invaded anymore. Keep in mind, this is an incredible positive change if you were constantly being raped and pillaged by the Comanche, which every tribe around the plains, so every tribe in America, was dealing with. Not saying it was a great thing. But I'm saying it was actually an improvement for the tribes who ended up in that situation. All they managed to do was refuse Christ and get. You've seen the way those things go down, and I don't want to rant and rave on that. The point is, if you actively refuse Christ as a people, there are consequences to that. Now, individual cases, great, but you got to be careful when you're bringing people into your home and into your churches and all that. You got to make sure that you're not dealing with a plant. How many times have you seen a church, right? And they let in a bunch of new excited converts or something. And then things start to change in the church. They start changing how the church acts. They start making it so that the church is more open to those people. More, we want to, as I ironically said earlier, we want to meet them where they're at, right? This is taking things too far. And the next thing you know, they're like, maybe we should let this this openly gay man become a pastor in the church so that more gay men might come to Jesus.
Yeah, he is pastor.
Right? And you see this, you see these changes happen as these people come in. Often a lot of busybody older women. That's not always them, but it's a lot of time them. And suddenly churches get split up and all these get gayer. Everything. The point is, the devil has his physical servants. And one of the easiest things they can do is send false converts to your church. You get what I'm saying? What easier way to cause discord in your church than to send someone who is nominally pretending, or even may think they are Christian, but are allowing demonic entities to control them or push them or influence them, or even, it doesn't even have to go that far. Like, you understand, if you're dealing with political entities that don't like your church, what easier way do they have to disrupt your church? Well, they could go through a very nasty public affair of shutting you down, or they could just send a couple of guys in there saying that they want to be Christian, and they actively work to get into leadership, and then they actively cause problems until the church splits.
Some converts who tried to date Christian girls.
Yeah.
It's like the same.
I know. I'm getting kind of in the weeds and conspiracy, but right, it goes all the levels of demonic activity to just some political entity or group doesn't like that particular church, and they infiltrate. So you got to be careful, right? We are supposed to be in the world, not of the world, right? It makes no sense, and you aren't helping the Buddhist you want to save by making Christianity more Buddhist.
What's funny is a lot of Buddhists would say, "Oh, Christian, good. We like Christians. We Buddhism, we do good. We get good. Yeah, Christian, good." That's all.
Historically, that's bull. By the way,
that's bull crap.
That's bull crap. Historically, Buddhists have slaughtered Christians in mass numbers. Right? If you look into the history of China, it's just a whole lot of Buddhists killing. Like, when Christianity started becoming a thing in China, it's a whole lot of Buddhists killing Christians, and then the Christians have one war where they fight back. And they were following a crazy guy, don't get me wrong. Some guy's like, I am the brother of Jesus. And because everything has been politically on, it's not Christianity's fault in that situation. When you really look into it, it's because the leadership had been screwing around for so long that China was a powder keg. But the war comes off. And what's easier as a political entity, right? Do you blame yourself or do you blame this religion over here? This foreign religion.
It's always easier to blame the other person.
Yeah,
or
right?
people.
So they just throw it all on them. They say, hey, look, they had their crazy guy there. And the Christians flocked to the banner because they were sick of all the Buddhists constantly killing them. They didn't care if the guy called himself Jesus Christ or anything. They were just like, we're sick of these Buddhists murdering us and raping our wives and children.
We're just trying to help you to enlighten.
Right? And that turned into a nightmare war that I need to research again before I try to say any numbers. But it was like such a big war that's when Christianity kind of really got outlawed in China and all these places. So don't think Buddhists are only peaceful right now because it serves their purposes. The second that entity or whatever entities run Buddhism decide that it serves their purposes more to be violent, they're going to be violent like they were throughout history.
Just think about the balance.
Just think about it, right? Buddhist warrior monks. Why do they need them? What's the point if they're a peaceful religion? That is a thing, isn't it? What do you need? Oh, they're just communing with the speed of their blades, and shut up. Shut up. Okay. No. We all know what the point of any warrior is, and that's what the warrior's path is about in the long run. Freeing Christians from this mindset that the only war that they can fight is a war that their enemies tell them they can fight. That's what World War I was. That's what this whole point of this entire thing is. It's why I bring World War I up. What is with, like, think about, you're in a churchian situation. You're in that church and you bring up some things like these Muslims have killed some Christians, or these gay people are actively sacrificing children in abortion clinics. Well, I guess they're not gay if they're getting pregnant. That's probably a bad choice.
If they got an implant, that does happen.
You got me. These heathens will say, I can't. I have to at least.
Lesbians.
They did get pregnant.
Yeah. There's weird crap going on.
Anyway, and yes, if you look this up, you're men, so I can tell you about this. If you look up witchcraft and abortion, you'll find out that there is an entire cadre of witches telling you how to turn your abortion into a sacrifice for various entities, sometimes Satan, sometimes pagan entities. And it is oddly prevalent and disgusting. And let's just say, I officially do not accept when people try to say, oh, they're just desperate women. Yeah, maybe 3 of them, and I'm those desperate women God can keep away from me. The rest, I wash my hands of you and what you do. Cursed freaks. Anyway, now that I got that out of my system, what was my point? Now that I'm enraged, I'm trying to calm down. What? Right.
They're not your friends, they're your enemies.
Thank you. No, more specifically, wars you're allowed to fight.
There you go.
Right. These will be the first people that would have seen that display in me and go, oh my God, you're not being Christian. How dare you be angry at the witches for murdering children? Right. These will be the same people that when World War III is kicked, well, it's already kicked off. But when it gets to the point where they're drafting people in the States for it, they're going to come to you and say, your Christian duty is to go out and fight and die so witches can sacrifice their children in peace. They're going to come to you like they did in World War I, and they're going to tell you it's your Christian duty to go fight and die in a war that has nothing to do with you, except for the fact that you should probably be fighting on the other side of it. I'm getting a little passionate about this. God might be a little serious on this subject. You need to stop letting them tell you what war you're allowed to fight.
Stop telling you what Christian means.
Yeah.
Because they don't know.
Stop letting your enemy tell you who you are and who your enemy is. Because they don't want you fighting them. They want you off killing your fellow Christians. Right. The World War III situation is a great point to this. Who are they wanting you to kill? They're going to be wanting you to kill the Russians. Coptic Christian, your brothers in Christ. Why? It ain't because they care about Ukraine, let me tell you that. It ain't because they care about civilians. How many civilians have died in the Israeli-Gaza conflict right now? They didn't give a shit about them. A lot of the Gaza people are Christians. There's a large Christian population in Gaza. Did they care about them when that was going down? No. So you need to do what your ancestors didn't have the brains to do or the will to do during the Christmas truce. You need to fight your real enemy and stop fighting wars for them. Wow, that wasn't the original point for this, but I kind of it rolled in nicely and I liked it. Woo!
Yeah, go to the next tab.
I should. I do. This is so awkward.
you're so hyped. I can tell.
I'm gonna be so mad if it turns out like every time I switch tabs to scroll down,
It works
like
here.
that the audio stopped. Oh no, my child is poo-pooed. Go, wife, charge.
You need to go to the.
I know what I need to do. You do what you need to do.
I do.
The do. Anyway, okay, let's get back into this.
I hear you, Bubba.
All right. Oh, and I should mention, right, like this says, we cannot live at peace with those who are peaceful with our enemies and the corruption they bring on our nation's people and children. If you allow evil to be, if you tolerate evil and those who tolerate evil inside your nations, then the first thing they do is stop your ability to fight evil because they're tolerant of evil. But evil will never be tolerant of you. Yeah? And like World War I, they'll trick you to kill your fellow Christians for no other reason. Or like, don't stop to think for a second anybody cared about the Archduke Ferdinand getting assassinated. Nobody actually cared about that. All right? He was that's the dude. You see? Wife's like, who? Like, half of you probably don't even know. That's the dude who got assassinated and that supposedly started World War I. Don't believe that crap. It's silly. It's not even a spark. Wow, I'm at the bottom. I should just finish up. But where and when did this war come from? Who is this evil and why do they hate the Lord's children, you so much? This is a long story, so buckle up for the next few lessons because we have much to cover and thousands of years of history to condense. All right, that's the lesson. But here we go. We have some questions here for you guys to ponder. I mean, you can also come up with your own questions if you're like teaching your own thing, but I recommend some questions, get people thinking as best they can. The first one I suggest is the false prophets within the modern fake churches, often take verses and entire stories out of context to suit their worldview and goals. Can you think of a time when you or someone you knew had their words taken out of context or twisted into unintended meanings? And in this day and age, I think we've all experienced that. How many times has that happened on the world stage, whatever stage you want to call it on the internet stage? What a sad, twisted stage
There's
that
stage
is.
before the internet, remember that.
And anyway, again, come up with your own questions, but I highlight this because I want to point out how the truth has been twisted into this overly feminized, we should say, useless Christianity that gets you nowhere and stops you from cleansing your churches or from kicking people out of churches, but not stopping the other side from kicking who they want to kick out of the church. You get what I mean? Right. They're tolerant until you're the one that they don't like.
You're the problem.
Right. They're tolerant until they don't like you, and then they're intolerant as much as they want. And this is what you got to remember. You got to stop listening to your enemies, okay? You can love on them if if it's in that situation, but you got to stop thinking they're going to love you back, okay?
Or else they're just going to take advantage of you.
There's a reason why they're your enemies, and you got to remember that. And you also have to remember that even if they think they're not your enemy, if they're part of a religion or they're atheist or whatever, they're under control of a principality that's often masquerading in that religion. You think that the Blackfoot that I brought up came up with a remarkably similar sacrifice mentality to the Carthage, right? Or to the similar stuff to the Aztecs or similar stuff to stuff that you would find in like ancient Far Eastern stuff, right? Or Far Eastern witchcraft, or even similar witchcraft concepts that even in modern day Africa, right? They just all magically came up with the same human sacrifice narrative for gaining power, all at the same time, at different time periods without being connected. No, those were principalities, entities trying to gain power through spiritual sacrifice and all this other stuff. Nasty stuff. We'll get again future lessons on that one. So, what was the original question? I'm all over the place. We've all been there. We've seen lies. And remember, they will lie about you. They lied about Christ. They're going to lie about you. All right. There are many more verses where Christ shows his coming will bring strife, or in his own words, a sword to the world. Have you heard of these verses before reading this lesson, or have they been hidden from you? Why do you think so many supposed Christians haven't heard these verses in any context before? And I think that question is pretty self-evident, but, encourage people to talk about it a little bit. The answer in my mind's obvious, but I'm also a weirdo. The obvious answer is you have lots of people influenced by demonic entities, and then you have others who are just prideful or want to make Christianity in their own image. Rather than find out who God is, they want God to be them. Rather than being an image of God, they want God to be an image of them.
Something that I read. I forgot what it was. It was like in Timothy. Those who pretend.
At least Timothy is a small book, so we can find it one day.
Timothy.
Small book. It wouldn't take long to find, but we don't have time.
It distracted me from my point. But where it talked about the godly who will try and act godly, but yet do not give credit to where the power is from. And what you're supposed to do.
Give glory to God.
Give glory to God, but not just that. It tells you to have nothing to do with them.
Oh, that part, yeah.
That part.
Yeah, that's New Testament. Yeah. So, as I was bringing that up earlier, people have a mentality where anything in the Old Testament that they don't like, that they'll just mark it off as. I never finished that thought way back when.
No, you didn't.
Basically, they'll have this mentality where anything that they don't like in the Old Testament, they'll just say is like eating shellfish or whatever. It's no longer part of the covenant with God, and thus is not necessary, and thus isn't important.
I mean, Deuteronomy talks about having no pity on those people either.
Right.
So,
But again, though there are some things that were like a lot of the dietary stuff, for example. Oh my gosh. You guys can't see her, but my child is smiling at me over the couch right now. A lot of the dietary stuff was meant to set the Israelites apart. Like if you this is gonna seem random. If you look in the Bible, there are certain. If you look at what Samson was, I forget the exact term. They had one for what he was, but Samson and John the Baptist, they had specific dietary covenants with God that they were only supposed to eat certain things and maybe not cut. I forget if John could cut his hair, but Samson definitely couldn't cut his hair. And
somebody cut more than John's hair at the end. Sorry.
Decapitation joke. Oh,
that was horrible.
Hey, you're gonna get to heaven, and John's gonna look at you and go, I heard that. It hurt a lot. And you're probably gonna both laugh about it. Anyway,
the diet. Have kept up with
the point is, not everyone has to eat bugs and honey. Hey! Nazarite. Thanks, Art Gaines. Nice to see you, man. I gotta catch more of your streams. Your streams have been entertaining, dude. I've liked them. It's been fun.
I've just been answering for both of us.
Yeah, I've been working a lot, but hey, it's good seeing you, man. You missed a lot. I'm sure you could rewatch it, but.
I think he was there the whole time and finally.
And then YouTube just now told me he showed up. YouTube would. But
I mean, you're talking about
Nazarite, right?
Stuff here.
Not everyone had to be a Nazarite to follow God. Not everyone had to be a Nazarite to follow God, right? There were plenty of people who could didn't have to eat bugs and honey and all that stuff, right? Not everyone was called to the dietary thing of John. Daniel, when he was
Daniel
in,
and his buddies.
yeah, when they were in Babylon,
Yeah.
they went above and beyond the dietary code of the Old Testament for a brief time, not the whole time. So they didn't eat any unclean meat, and God blessed them. It wasn't that vegetables were healthier than pork. It was that God blessed them. You see that? See how that works? Right? And anyone who's seen the vegetarians trying to climb mountains and dying lately, well, could attest to that
This
fact.
celery will give me just enough water to give me 2 more
These
steps.
pistachios will give me all the protein I need. Newsflash, they won't unless God's pulling a miracle off in your favor. See? See, the dietary stuff in the Bible was meant to set the Israelites apart. And we have clear verses where Jesus Christ is setting up, and Peter is setting up the fact that those dietary laws are no longer necessary. We have the whole sheet coming down from heaven. Don't declare unclean what I've declared clean, blah, 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 and all this stuff. Basically, it's a continuation of the covenant and going, okay, we're moving on from those dietary rules that were meant to set Israel apart to Christianity and the New Testament, right? That doesn't change how God works. That means we've gone from this covenant where we were supposed to abstain from the certain things that weren't necessarily morally wrong, but were meant to set Israel apart amongst the nations, just like those dietary things gave whatever spiritual mumbo jumbo and covenants for Samson and John the Baptist.
Well, the interesting thing too is also what's the subversion?
Yeah,
that
my wife brought that up.
The pagan stuff, the witchcraft stuff.
Yep.
They have their own dietary too. So
Yep.
they're
which ranges from Hitler being a vegetarian, funny enough, to a lot of witches being like Episcopalians and vegetarians and all that, to straight up like you go far on
cannibalistic.
far enough on the Hindu or Buddhist route, and they're like literal like starve themselves for years kind of thing. And spiritual energy will keep them alive.
They literally go to a mountain and sit there.
As opposed to figuratively go to a mountain and sit there.
You could try and imagine that, but
I
it would be
suppose I
very
could.
lonely.
Very romantic.
Lonely.
Love it. Anyway,
lonely and
we're
romantic
in the
never
weeds.
in the same sentence, please.
The point is, right, you have to establish two people, because they'll take that concept and they'll run with it completely to the point of like, oh, well, if it's okay for us to eat shellfish now, then it must mean that we can never fight our enemies or kick Dang it, child. Is she okay? Poor thing. She's in the walking stage, and she's discovering the falling stage.
She fell backwards off the couch with the toy in her hand.
No.
Yeah.
Little lady. She's alright. Don't worry, guys. Whew. I'm such a dad when this sort of stuff happens. Poor thing. All right. We'll get to the next question. The point that I was bringing up is distracted. You're okay, little lady. You're okay. I know. Right. So this is why in a lot of the verses in the lesson are New Testament, because I'm establishing that even in the New Testament, the idea of fighting evil is still very much there. And there's a reason why a lot of the early Christians were, crusaders and all that. God. Anyway, so we'll get into the next question. Right. He is no matter what we want him to be. Do you want to know your creator, or make a box for him to sit in that you're comfortable with? What preconceptions do you have about God and Jesus Christ that might be holding your relationship with the Almighty back? And this is important. Like, even on board with everything I've said with this, everyone has blind spots. Everybody has blind spots. It's not just the churchians. And this is important to pray about and meditate in your own spiritual walk, to figure out where. Oh, I wonder if I need to hold her. Poor thing. Anyway, to figure out where in your own life your personal view of God is holding you back and stopping you from actually perceiving reality and what God is and what he reveals himself to be in the Bible. It's important to kill the old self, right? To force the old self to allow God to change it into the man he wants you to be, what he's always wanted you to be. To learn what God is, who he is, no matter how uncomfortable that makes you feel. If God is in that box and you're totally comfortable with who he is, then there's a problem. Because if he's everything you want him to be, then I almost guarantee you that is the perceived God in your head. You are making yourself God in that image and you're just declaring it to be God. He is the most powerful, most complex being that's ever been existed. He is going to be different than what you are. There's no way around it. He is different. You are an imager of what he is. You are a piece of what he is. You have the breath of life. You have a bit of him in you, but it's just a bit. You are very small compared to God, and thus it's going to be different. Like, imagine an ant thinking it knows everything there is to know about me. That's you thinking you know everything there is to know about God. Now, luckily, at least in the Bible and in my own experience, God doesn't crush us like we crush ants, but hey. You get the point. We're not going full, oh, dang it, I forgot the famous Puritan thing that I was forced to read as a kid. The famous sermon where he's talking about, like, he's holding you like a spider over the flame, wanting to drop you. I ain't like that. Don't worry.
What the heck?
It's intense, yeah. That was a sermon that led to one of the great it's not reform. What do they call them? Great revivals in America's past. Good times.
That is very disturbing.
Hey, man, they didn't have a bunch of fags in their midst. I guess I can't completely
Yeah, but
pound on his methods. Jonathan Edwards, this is Arcanes. Gotta love it. Oh, man. Whew, we made it through the whole thing, I think. Yep. I know you got in late, but you have any questions about the lesson, Arcanes, or you haven't read it and you're just here for moral support? No, I mean, it's fair. It's a long thing. But I want to give any chance for any questions someone might have about it. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. I can't believe the little lady fell while we were streaming. We need a code name for each kid so we don't say their names. Just hanging. Always fun. Whew. Whew.
I mean, I always refer to her as baby girl.
Baby girl.
Yeah, because she's the only girl.
I feel like I need an actual nickname to just throw at her. We'll try lady for now.
Little lady.
Little lady. Oh. Yeah. Man. Guess I should probably end the stream, but I feel bad because Arcanes came at the last 10 minutes. Oh, man. Anything else I want to say about this, man?
Anything else you want to add to it?
I mean, there's so much to add.
Oh, that's true. I saw how long the original writing was. It was like...
Yes, I got it.
You think that's an essay? Oh, boy. Before editing? Oh, no.
Don't worry, guys. I got every single lesson under 2,000 words. And there's some of them that are only like 500, You're welcome. Well, unfortunately, it is kind of necessary. A lot of the concepts that I'm going to be exploring in these Sunday school lessons, the Churchians are anathema to them. So you have to back it up as hardcore as you can, with as many verses as possible. I will get into this. So the verse, this is fun. I think I do get into this in a later thing. I do need to scroll up, but we can get into this real quick. I think you'll find this interesting, Arcanes. If I can find it. Here we go. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peacefully with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, and I will repay, says the Lord. Now, as I bring up in the words in the actual thing, it has this key line where it says, if possible, and sometimes it's whenever possible. It's clearly saying you should live peaceably only when your enemies let it. No stream for me today. The rush order at work. Oh, suck. It's always fun. I feel you, man. But yeah, that if possible line shows the fact that Paul is not saying you should always do it. Say when you can, you should. But if your enemy is being belligerent, you shouldn't just let them kill you.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. One of David's Psalms, I think,
Mhm.
could have been earlier in the Old Testament,
Mhm.
where it says, "And the spirit of vengeance was on them."
And we'll get into that.
Yeah.
The really interesting thing about this verse, if
Mhm.
you look up the verse, and this is an important verse because churchians use it all the time, and the people who were completely against war, what's the funky name they give themselves? Oh,
Against what?
pacifists, because they have pacifiers now. That's
They're
that
so
joke.
passive. They have biblical pacifiers.
This is,
Just kidding.
as you'll notice, Paul is quoting a scripture when he's doing this. He's actually quoting Deuteronomy, and because this is originally I went into the whole thing, but it turned into like a whole essay of itself when I first brought this up. So I had to like cut it from the whole whole episode. But we'll get a little into it. And if I wish I had like wrote the verse down, but you can look it up. It's pretty easy to find. You just bring that verse up, Romans 12, 18, 19, and ask Google or whatever, what is he referencing? It was literally vengeance against a group of people. This is what's so annoying. Well, they were being called, like the exact line he's quoting says, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. And then he called them to go do his vengeance for him. Like, that's what's so crazy about this quote is Paul's literally quoting a moment where God's enacting his vengeance through his servants on earth, and he's commanded them to go out and do his vengeance for him. Which links, I might add, the New Testament to this concept in the Old Testament that God's vengeance very well can be commanded of you to be carried out. God may, and I won't say will, it's English term, but God is within his purview, and he has done it before to command you to do his vengeance. And the very verse used to neuter any act of vengeance in Christianity, right? We're talking about gamma vengeance here. We're not talking about little petty. You stole my the girl I had never had a chance with. I'm gonna hate you for all my life and try to murder you in your sleep or something. It's not talking about that. It's not talking about, oh, you stole my sweet roll. I hate you for all eternity. Did I just quote Skyrim? I did. Let me guess. Did someone steal your sweet roll? God, I'm such a nerd. Anyway, that should be as iconic as the arrow to the knee line. I'm just saying things that the Skyrim guards say. But
there's a lot of other things.
There's right.
Just saying.
Woo! And so whenever someone throws this verse in your face that says, vengeance is mine, I will repay of the Lord, you throw it back in their face. Good. He was commanding his servants to enact his vengeance in this verse. Are you willing to do his vengeance if he commands you? And the answer will be no, because two things are happening. Well, three possibly, but we're going to go with the two that I care about right now. A, they're cowards and they don't want to actually ever fight anyone. And if nobody's willing to fight, that means they don't have to fight. B, they don't want you to act vengeance on them for some of the shit they've done. There's, of course, other options, but those are the two biggest ones. I don't know why I'm doing it like that. Let's do this. This is better. Or German, right? There are other options, but those are the biggest, most likely ones, especially if you're dealing with like politics or Satanists and all that, especially if you're dealing with someone who's not Christian. Like saying, "Hey, you're not," ruin all, like I have many streams to get through on all these subjects and more lessons to write. Ooh, we get into all of this, but there's entire times where King Ahab, for example, the worst king, whatever, worst one, but there was a time where God saved him and sent prophets to him, and he was told to go kill this army and all this. And the king of this army gets defeated multiple times, and God wants this guy dead. And the guy screams mercy to Ahab. And Ahab goes, "Oh, is he right? He's my brother." And he treats all of the prisoners very well. God's not happy. God is, in fact, quite displeased. And he sends the prophet out to kill the dude. Wait, that was Samuel. Yeah, that was Samuel and Saul. See, it happens multiple times where it's a similar story that I'm mixing them up. Samuel and Saul also have a moment where Saul spares a king, and Samuel comes up and murders the dude in front of everybody. The prisoner of war, right, comes up and like tortures him to death in front of everybody. It's really brutal what he does.
Yeah,
And that's
brutal in the old.
And these right, this is one of the prophets, right? This is 2 books are written about this guy, 1st and 2nd Samuel. This is one of the primo prophets in the Bible, and he just does that. Now, again, in the Ahab situation, the king survives, but God calls a curse on Ahab because he didn't kill that king, and that king would come back and kill Ahab. Or not him personally, but like destroy Israel in a certain brutal fashion. Of course, I'm not going to have all the details ready to go because I'm jumping all over the Bible like a madman.
They're not like those people the Bible scholars that always.
Yeah, and then if you explore, oh hi, a cat. You want to say hi?
Commercial break.
Yes, my cat. Funny story about him. This is kind of a side note. But, if you're teaching Sunday school lessons, I've learned this. You can't always be serious. Make some jokes, have some games, have some fun, drink some coffee, bring out a cat. This funny cat, he's not showing it right now. Yeah. Oh, don't. Shh, demonic kitty cat. Look out. He's trying to end the stream.
I mean, you could buy a little piece of the Bible. That's why I had to give him.
Maybe it was because it was leather, wife?
No, it's the fake leather.
Trust it. But yeah, so there were multiple stories on players because you did not enact justice. I'm going to destroy you. Well, how are the people supposed to do that? It talked about corrupt judges, corrupt leadership. Well, how can you blame the people for that? But the answer is they could have dealt with those judges. They could have practiced. Oh, my favorite word in the world. I can't remember right now. It's discrimination. There's a whole word in English that's only for throwing leadership out of windows to their death. I love it. It's a beautiful word. It's very long, and I can't think of it right now because I've only read it in my head, and I haven't said it out loud in a long time.
You told me once, and we were laughing about it.
Yeah, we Dutch. It's a very Dutch and Slavic, oddly enough. That's funny. We have a long history of throwing leaders out of windows we don't like.
You told me about this a couple years ago, actually.
Yeah, and let me tell you, if you're in a situation where it's you throw that leader out of the window, or God pushes your entire people over the crap he's doing,
or
throw him out the window.
Or like what happened to Jezebel?
She threw her out the window and eaten by dogs. Hey. Good time. Huh. Whew.
A lot of socializing.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah. I think I'm going to clean things up, though. We went through everything I was planning to. I got a little excited when our games came out. I got to make sure I join his and actually give him some comments. I've been commenting for my wife. I've been using her.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Been so busy at work. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. You let me know what you guys think about it. Comments. I do have a Discord up. If you guys want anything specifically about that, I leave the link in. I don't have it up on this YouTube page. Caden lesson. It'll be there, and I'll have it up on the video hopefully by tomorrow. You can, ask me anything you want to ask on Social Galactic as well, of course. But yeah, there you go.
Keep it anonymous.
It's fun. Yeah. And you can do the Discord if you want like a personal chat without everybody looking at you. Yeah, we have a dog underneath my feet too. Don't you worry. Hey, Rosie, you want to say hi before we say?
You mean the dog that you got me, but that she doesn't
And
want to
then
be
look-
near me?
That's right. I bought my wife a dog, and then she attached herself to me so thoroughly. Rosie, come here. Rosie, come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Yes, you're a puppy. Yes. Yeah, see, proof. Proof we are not cat people only.
We got the dog first.
Hey, we want to say hi to them? You want to say hi to them? Come on, say hi to them. Look at them. Yeah. All right. All right, well, hang on. Oh. First start with this. Oh, God, I'm huge again. All right. But yeah. War is the air we breathe. Always fight your true enemy.
There you go.
Christian. Remember, Islam is started in the Arabic Peninsula. It has Christian elements in it because of when a certain prophet that won't be named right now married a Christian. It's amazing how that worked. And so, also, yes, certain aspects of Judaism started getting mixed when he married a Jew. Not saying there's a pattern, but there's a pattern. So, all of that land was full of martyrs who died as the Muslims came in. All right? Guess what? It didn't do a thing. All the descendants of that area, Muslim, not Christian, under the power of principality of evil. Now, I'm an equal opportunity offender. I'm not just pagans, Muslims, Buddhists. If you worship anything other than Christ, you are worshiping an entity that's against Christ. That's it. It's not hard. It's not a complicated thing. The Bible agrees with me on so many levels.
You agree with the Bible. And so
Accurate.
there you go.
Thank you.
Bible came before you did.
This idea came from the Bible, not me. I am just translating. So, obviously, martyrdom didn't really work with Islam. Martyrdom didn't really work with the Mongols. Martyrdom did work with the Vikings, oddly enough. Not every time, but it was a slow burn, and eventually the Vikings were won over. But in the end, the Vikings kind of had to be conquered too. That was complicated. So, I'm pointing this out because different tactics were used at different times by God, by entities, by Christians. Sometimes, God inspires man to do it. Sometimes he just pushes man to do it. Whatever. The Roman Empire was best proselytized through martyrdom and displays of extreme dedication to Christianity. That impressed the Romans. If they had rose up and attacked the Romans would have. Wife's like, you're not going to pick up on me, boy. The Romans would have banded together behind their pagan religions and fought as hard as humanly possible, which they'd done for generations. They would have viewed Christianity as an enemy to fight. But because the Christians didn't rise up in arms and they were using the legal system, they were dying in droves. The Romans saw themselves as a villain after a while, and they were impressed. The Mongols never cared about that. They just wanted to kill you and destroy your religion. That's all they wanted to do. They didn't care. They didn't care if you did it bravely. They didn't care if you did it cowardly. They just wanted you dead. And when you face a Mongol, you can't use the same tactic that you use on a Roman. When you face a Japanese, you can't use the same tactic that you were going to use on the Chinese. It does not work. The Irish pagans, the same thing. Viking pagans, Germanic pagans, Buddhists, Hindu, different sects of Buddhism for that matter, different sects of Islam, all of that stuff. You need different tactics for different folks. And that's what God did. And guess what? we're at that period where most of the tactics you're going to use, sorry, you have a lot of people you're going to run into who are not going to be impressed by martyrdom. They're not going to care. Plenty of martyrs died trying to get into Korea back in the day. I'm not talking about the North Korea, South Korea thing. Ancient, way back when well, not the first missionaries. Oddly enough, there are signs like there were ancient missionaries going all the way back, like when with Christianity first started spreading. Crazy stuff. But there was another wave in like the 1800s and 1800s. You know, when
when the British came in.
When Japan was forced to open its borders and all that, there were a lot of missionaries going out, and they were going into Korea. And all of the ones who went in North Korea, guess what? All of their life's work's been destroyed, pretty much, by the North Korean government. What are you going to do about that, right? Their martyrdom was useless against the Korean culture. Not completely useless, right? God still worked with it. And it was still an important thing to do because everyone is supposed to have a chance. But obviously, different tactics for different folks. Giving the cannibals a bunch of new things to eat isn't necessarily the right move. It does work sometimes, which is a weird thing to say. But I'm more of the opinion that since we outnumber the cannibals in those situations, we just tell them we're not really happy with their cannibalizing ways. And since their cultures are usually based on strength anyway, inform them that they're the weaker party and to change their ways. Oh, that reminds me of a movie I watched once where it was the Japanese putting down a rebellion of cannibalistic tribes in the island of Taiwan during World War II. And this thing wanted me to feel really bad for these cannibal tribes. And Japanese either. They were using gas and all this other stuff. But I'm like, how am I supposed to feel bad for these crazy people that they murdered and ate all each other constantly? They have these piles of skulls. Like the big moment that I'm supposed to feel bad for them is when the Japanese are making them turn in their skulls so they could dispose of them. I'm supposed to, like, in this case, I'm sorry, but the Japanese are the heroes. Oh no! Don't take my trophies of utter disgusting violence. Like, man, if you've disgusted the Imperial Japanese, dude, you're a nasty piece of work, man. Like, the Japanese were a little like, oh, we gotta calm this down.
I'm gonna cut my
like, the guys' violence in Philippines and like killing all the prisoners of war.
Headhunters too. Oh, those
right.
stories are screwed.
Yeah, right. Those guys were a little freaked out by these cannibalistic tribes in Taiwan. Okay. Man, that wanted me to feel bad for those cannibals. It was a movie that wanted, it's like one of those historical movies.
Oh, so it's like Monster Quest kind of a thing.
No. Like it's like I'm telling the story through a fictional lens, kind of like Enemy at the Gates or something like that.
Okay,
you get the point. But trying to be more historical, so they didn't make up any fake characters. They used real life characters from the history books. You get the point, but then fictionalized them how they saw fit. So fit. And again, right? You have to be a real piece of work to make the Imperial Japanese of World War II look like the good guys. I mean, the Americans weren't the good guys. Don't get me wrong. It was bad. We caused a lot of the death and destruction we didn't need to. It was stupid. But the Imperial Japanese didn't do themselves any favors with how they acted during World War II. So if you're making them look like the good guys, you are a piece of work, man. And it blows my mind. I know I've bringing it up over and over, but that movie, you could tell by the way it was written, you were supposed to be impressed and feel bad for this oppressed tribe of headhunters who wanted to keep their damn skulls. I mean, I guess the Dark Lord might be a little impressed with that desire to keep their mound of skulls.
Well, the Dark Lord's a little
different type of skulls, to be fair.
A little different type of,
That cracked me up. And like, I'm probably banging on this too much. It's too much of a tangent. I'm so entertained by it. Like it got to the point where the rebellion happens. They're rebelling against the Japanese, and they slaughter uh all these women and children just viciously. And I'm still supposed to feel bad for the headhunters, and I'm like, I don't really feel bad if you guys get gassed. In fact, I kind of feel like you should get gassed. In fact, I think the Americans should stop and not invade anymore and let you guys finish the job first. Maybe we should send you some bombs to help out. And then here's the kicker. This tribe is so messed up that the women and children kill themselves so that the men have nothing to lose and will fight to the death.
Oh my God.
That, like, I mean, there's a certain amount of bravery to that. There's also a certain amount of disgust. Like, good. You know what? Go ahead. Again, good job, Japanese, for wiping out that disgusting culture that was worshiping some kind of death god. Good job. I mean, as it turned out, you just had to look really mean for a while. Kill themselves. Hey! God, what a stupid culture. How did it survive that long? I don't. Yeah, I guess I'm revealing why my mom called me a racist pig again. But I don't understand why I have to sit here and pretend like these vicious, violent, terrible people who created cultures that are vicious, violent, and terrible need to be respected so much. They don't respect me or my culture. Why do I have to respect them?
Yeah, they're literally coming in and pooping on the side of the road.
I'm not even talking about the Indians. I'm literally talking about headhunters. Canada, what kind of Canadians have you been?
Canada, that's what's going on. That's what he's saying.
Indians.
I know.
Indians
going and pooping in a room. That's what's happening in Canada.
I know. You made it sound like the Canadians were pooping.
No, the Canadians aren't. But this guy's himself is Muslims, then that's another story.
It's getting complicated.
I doubt that's what's happening.
Okay. We need to stop. It's getting late. We're getting weird. Yeah. War movies crack me up sometimes with who they're trying to make the heroes. So fun.
Or wildlife channels
Wildlife.
Make you feel horrible about this, cannibalistic species too.
Oh no, not the alligator.
Or another one. It's like, oh no.
Oh yeah, I recently.
Environmentalists.
Environmentalists.
They piss me off.
Oh yeah. Wow. Okay. I think.
Didn't you go to bed at like 4 a.m. the other day?
It was 3. Then the kid woke up at 4. But I didn't wake up till 10. Day. It was lucky. It was a day off that next day, baby. I worked it well. I was lucky.
You worked it well, then I took you out of the house all day.
Anyway, do the like, do the subscribe, do the share. Come back next week for the next lesson. I'm thinking if I have time and more time, we might bring back something that we were only doing on Odyssey for a while, which was a creepy story podcast.
On Odyssey?
I only put it up on Odyssey, babe. Not on YouTube. It
wasn't on YouTube? I thought it was on YouTube.
No. So we have a couple things we release on YouTube. Reruns, basically.
Page for YouTube. Oh.
Pretty sure it was only on Odyssey. Anyway.
I look up later.
Anyway, we'll probably do that again because it's fun.
Files?
Yeah. Pretty sure. I mean, we'll look.
We'll see. We'll find out.
But with that, I got to make sure I got enough time with work.
Because I thought Odyssey had
children.
Because we didn't live stream it.
No, we didn't.
So many things it was YouTube.
No.
Okay.
Because Odyssey, that's why. But we're streaming on YouTube now.
Well, yeah, because that's a different account.
No, we had an issue with YouTube, and that's why I went to Odyssey. Because that was when they were starting their new thing where you had to be doing like YouTube for a certain amount of months or pay money.
I thought it was to live stream, not to.
Yes, and that was YouTube, not Odyssey.
Okay.
And it was also posting links and stuff.
You win.
Women keep you up till 4. Blame you
Ooh.
for it.
I'll went to bed at 1.
Oh yeah. Speaking of that, okay, I am gonna like, subscribe, share. First lesson: war is the air you breathe. Fight your real enemy. Don't let them tell you who you are and who you can fight.
Or don't let them tell you what
And
your
remember,
streams.
Christ came not to bring peace, but to bring a sword. And God may very well command you to do his vengeance for him. Hey, look, a sword
A sword.
on a Bible.
On a Bible.
How quaint.
Look at that.
Okay, I'm gonna
All right.
I'm just turning this off. This is ridiculous. What am I doing? All right. Catch you guys next week. Later, our games. Yeah. Get off my beard.